Good morning. Good morning. If you're online, let me know if you can hear me. If you're online, let me know you can hear me. Uh, just drop me a comment there. Just tell me you can hear me. Yesterday we did a broadcast that was without sound. So kindly let me know you can hear me if you're online so we can dive into this conversation. You know, we live in very interesting times. I have been, doing my own research on this COVID-19 and the way the world has dealt with it. And to my surprise, most people really are being affected and dying from fear than from COVID itself. And I know there are so many propagators of fear, uncertainty. There are people that, they're just planet miners. They're here to make things difficult for humanity. And it's very sad that so many people, have died mostly because their immunity could not support them. Because of the fear and their body just shutting down, not just because of COVID. And so, if you're joining me, please kindly just let me know you can hear me so that we can dive into the conversation today. So, if you can hear me, let me know. Just type there, you can hear me, so we can get started. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you. Hi, can you hear me? Hi, Artie. Can you hear me? I want to know whether you can hear me so we can get started on this conversation. Oh, brilliant, brilliant. If you can hear me, let me know. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me so we can get started on this conversation? We had a small challenge. Oh, good. Thank you, Artie. Thank you. Thank you so much. I needed that because I am not able to get the feedback. And so let's get started. I'll share my thoughts about this season, COVID, and the way I feel, is the best way to approach this. But let me begin by a very interesting story. I'm not sure whether you've ever heard about the mythical story of the phoenix. The phoenix was a huge bird that, the story comes from Egypt and some other countries where this huge bird really was very intuitive bird, according to the research. And the bird would live for about 100 years. 100 years. That was the life, span that this bird would live. And when it's about to die, the bird would know intuitively. It would know it's my time to go. And what it used to do is it would prepare its death by setting up a nest of twigs and then set the nest on fire while it's seated there. And the fire consumes the phoenix to ashes. And after it's consumed, a new phoenix emerges from the ashes. A new phoenix, strong and mighty, strong and fresh and mighty. And as I was, thinking about this story, I'm like, this is the story of my life. And this is a story for so many other people where we go through challenges of life, but then we are ready to emerge afresh as new people, as more stronger, renewed people. It's not just the phoenix. Actually, the eagles also do the same. The eagles have a renewal system. And that's why the Bible says you'll be renewed like the eagles. Because every 40 years, the eagle will renew itself and come out as a fresh, with new claws and with new beak and with new strength. And you're dealing with a completely new new bird. And so it's the same thing for the phoenix. And allow me to turn this on silent. Sorry, it's the same thing with the phoenix, and it's the same thing with you. You are unstoppable as long as your mind is focused on your greatest potential, and you have mastery over your emotions. Because, like I was saying when I was starting, most people died of COVID in this season of this, now epidemic, is because of fear. There's so much uncertainty and fear in the world that your immunity is actually just preparing to die. Because there's so much about immunity that actually that is more than just swallowing tablets. That is, connected to your brain, the way you think, the way you process things. And so I came up with some 4 points that I believe can help us to come out of this these ashes of COVID stronger than before, to come out of this new person, to focus our mind on the new us, to renew ourselves, this could be in your businesses, in your relationships, it could be in any area of your life that you've been, affected by this challenge. All of us have been affected. How can we sail through? There are so many voices that are speaking to us: government voices, voices of within you, voices of your past, voices of failure, and the voice of fear, which has been the most common voice across the internet. It's all about fear. You're going to die. We are finished. This is the end. Hello. The world has been through things like this before, and people survived. And people survived because of the mindset they were in. Your mind is the biggest, most precious gadget that you want to protect right now, and protect from voices that want to call you to your grave before your time. You have to come to a place of, saying no to manipulation and, to these systems that manipulate humanity to a state of weakness. Save yourself. And so the first thing that I want us to, to learn from the story of the phoenix is, number one, allowing what needs to die to die. Getting in that position where you can give permission to whatever is dying, whether it's in your area of career, whether it's in the way you used to see things, whatever needs to die, let it die. Give permission to whatever is going to go. Don't hang on to things that used to serve you before COVID, as if they are your God. Don't hang on. If that career wants to go, let it go. Give yourself permission to renew yourself, to come out as a new person. And so there are people who come out of COVID with a new profession. There are people who come out of COVID with a new talent. There are people who come out of COVID with a new gift. Allow the old to die. If it served you, that's okay. If you are this kind of a person operating this way, that's okay. Before COVID, we used to see our clients one-on-one. Now we don't do that. Now we see people, like this, virtually, and people are getting results. Before, I never thought, this is an effective way of connecting with each other. But now I have to give permission, allow the past to remain in the past, and allow myself, to be a new person. And so allow whatever needs to die to die. And I'm saying this because many people are losing their job. Many people have lost their job. Many people have lost their source of income. But listen, that is not the only source of income. And if that's how you look at your life, then you're limiting God and you're limiting yourself. This world has so many opportunities only for the open people. If you're open, opportunities are there. Opportunities are there for open people. But when you close yourself, and when you're afraid of dying, The phoenix is never afraid of dying. In fact, it prepares its death. And so sometimes you have to take part in your death, in the death of the old way of operating in your business, in the death of the old way of operating in your relationships. Be part of your death process. Let whatever is dying die. Let it go. There are people who will not be able to handle you in the new, distance yourself, do all these World Health Organization recommendations. It's okay. Give people permission to go if they need to go. And humanity, we cling, we cleave, we hang on to things that are dying. And the challenge of hanging on to dying things is soon they'll begin to stink. Very soon, the smell will actually begin to depress you. And so most of us, we are depressed because of things we are hanging on to. Many of us, our mental health is affected by the things we don't want to lose. So let it go. Let it go. Look for other opportunities. Find your strength. What else can you do? Moses, what do you have in your hand? Moses, what do you have in your hand? What else do you have? What else do you have? You see, if you read the story of Moses, God did not just use the stick on his hand. He used even the voice. He used his voice and changed his voice. What else do you have? And he also used company, used Aaron, relationships. What else do you have? Look at your wealth. Look at the resources that God has placed around you that can build the new you. And sometimes the new people will begin to come in your life when you're open. When you're open, you connect to people that you never knew existed. This world is beautiful. This world is beautiful when you look at it through the eyes of beauty. But when you look at it through the eyes of fear, this world is a scary place. This world is a scary. So that's how we create our experience in the world, depending on how you're looking at the world. When you look at the world through the eyes of fear, this will be a fearful place to be. No one wants to be in such a place. When you look at the world through the eyes of possibility and love, this world is beautiful. You will connect with beautiful people that are interested in you, people that are interested in pushing, your agenda, you're becoming a client for you, people that are honestly willing to support you and your destiny. Number 2, let me go through because I'm going for another meeting. Give permission to the new you, for the new you to be born. So it's not just, allowing whatever needs to die, but also consciously give permission to the new you to be born. In fact, just sit down and just allow and give your mind, possibilities. I'm ready for the new me. Talk to yourself, speak to yourself, tell yourself, I'm ready for the new me. I'm ready for my story to change. I am ready for the new me. Because sometimes the new you will not be unleashed if you're not mentally ready. Einstein said that you cannot have a new life with the same old mindset that created the old one. And so you have to open up to the new you. You have to be okay with the new you for it to be born through you. And so give yourself permission to allow the new you to be born. And that can happen by just telling yourself, the story, the new story that I'm ready for the new me. When you're having conversations with people, just tell them I'm ready for the new me. When you're talking to people on phone, tell them I'm ready for the new me. I'm ready for the new me. I'm ready for the new me. I'm ready for the new relationships. I'm ready for my new career. I am ready for my new mission on the planet. I am ready. Are you ready? Number three, stay true to each moment. Let me repeat that. Stay true to each moment of change. Now, this is what the phoenix does. The phoenix stays true even to the moment of its death. When it comes 100 years and it's time to die, it doesn't struggle. It doesn't surrender. It surrenders. It doesn't struggle and fight to stay alive. Whatever needs to die, let it die. For you to do that, you have to stay true to the moment. When it's moment to let go, let it go. The Bible says in the book written by the wisest man, Solomon, it says there's time for everything. There's time to die, there's time to live, there's time to leave, there's time to cleave, and there's time to give, and there's time to withhold from giving. There's actually time to withhold from giving. And this is not time, this is time to withhold from giving high fives and hugs. It's time for everything. And accepting that is okay. It's not fear, it's just being true to the moment. Be true to the season. Be true to each moment. When it's time, the world is calling us to really be true to each moment. Be true to each moment. Give yourself permission to be true to this moment. What is this moment for? Be true to it. Okay, number 4, and the last one. This is groundbreaking. This for me was a breakthrough. And this for me is a story, is my new story, is the new me. And this is be vulnerable and real. Be vulnerable and real. For the phoenix to sit on this burning fire and allow death to happen and allow the new self to emerge from the ashes, that is vulnerability. That is being vulnerable. That is really surrender. Most people don't want to hear the word vulnerable because the world has seen vulnerability as weakness. Being vulnerable means that you can talk to your boss and tell your boss, hey, things are so bad. Can we work out something? Can we agree on something without ego? It's ego that makes us not be vulnerable. Ego makes us see vulnerability as weakness. But being vulnerable, I find it to be strength. And I have decided this is my next, the phoenix that will come out of this guy will be a vulnerable and real man. That's who I want to be for the rest of my life. I made that decision because I realized, oh, hey, lack of vulnerability is lack of courage. When you're not vulnerable, you're actually lacking courage. That's what I realized. Being vulnerable is courage. Just say, no, I can't have this. When you're vulnerable, you're true to yourself. Look, we grew up in a world of role models, people who show us how life should be and people that we can look up to and copy. But look, I realize this is a wrong concept of role models. And I don't want to be a role model to anyone anymore. I want to be a real model. There's a difference between a role model and a real model. A real model is vulnerable. A real model is truthful. A real model is accepting of them. But a role model is just a role that you're playing. You're just playing a role. And I don't find it deep. I don't find it powerful. I don't find it transforming of society when you're just a role model. Because a role model then calls you to play a role. So you're just playing a role of being a husband, you're playing a role of being a wife, you're playing a role of being a worker in that organization. This world has been crushed by role models because it's just drama. You're just playing a role. And so you're acting, you're not real. When I go deeper and come closer, you're broken and beaten. And you don't want to share that story of brokenness and being beaten. Why? Because you're not strong enough. You don't have the courage. You don't have what it takes courage to step into vulnerability. It takes courage to tell your children, I don't know what will happen after this COVID. I don't know where next meal will come from. Let's pray. I don't know. Vulnerability is actually what will bring you to a place of power. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is power. And so when you emerge from the ashes of COVID vulnerable, and willing to say whatever needs to be said at the moment, fearlessly, you are birthing a very powerful human being that can change the world. You are birthing someone that can be in beautiful relationships, because the reason we hurt each other, the reason we close doors of love for each other is because we are not vulnerable. And this is mostly vulnerability is a bigger issue for men than for women. For men, if you're vulnerable, it's a breakthrough. If you're lucky to be vulnerable in your lifetime, it's a breakthrough. For most men, they just want to role model, to act. It's drama, to put a mask. Like, this is, I'm strong, hey, macho, hey, hello. But then when you're vulnerable is when you're really strong. That's emotional strength it's unstoppable. No one can break you. And men are different from women. I find most of the time our vulnerability, shame as men, is in our weakness. When we see, when the world shows that we are weak, like financially, when you're not doing so well, you may not tell your family the situation, until everyone is asked to leave the house, and real shame now comes on you, because vulnerability for men is shame. For women is in their image, the way they show up in their image. For men, that's no big deal. For women, it is image. That's where your area of shame as women is actually in the image. And when it begin to show up as you, and right now, I mean, with COVID, yeah, at a salon, yeah, how many people are going for salon? And so for women, you're affected in terms of my image. For men, you're affected because of there's no income, and that's where your deepest vulnerability is, in feeling I'm a weak man. And when the world tells you you're a weak man, then really you really feel a sense of shame. The answer to shame is actually be vulnerable. Accept. Tell them, yeah, so what? This is where I am, but this is not where I'm going to be forever. This is the best. If I was to become a mentor for anyone, if I was to be a mentor to my son, I would teach him to be vulnerable. I would teach him to be open, to tell the truth no matter what, from a place of power. If we emerge out of this as vulnerable, can you imagine if your organization, where you work, everyone was vulnerable and truthful and present in the moment? The world will change. We're talking of a new world where we are not hiding from each other, where we are not talking about corruption, where we are not talking about people killing each other and digging each other's, pulling each other's carpet, because you are vulnerable. I look at the story of the phoenix, vulnerability, being present in the moment, making it okay for things that want to die, and allowing the new to come in. Whatever is coming, whatever the universe, God is allowing to your life, let it come in, and just be present, be vulnerable. That's a fearless position in life. It's a position for the masters. You become a master of your destiny. So from today, let's shift the story a little bit. Be vulnerable. Call someone and ask them, how are you doing? This is how I feel. I just wanted to connect with someone. For so many people, especially if ego is something that holds you back, it's a prison for you, then picking your phone to dial someone and I'm just checking on you, my friend. Are you okay? How are you holding on, to things? And most people ask, why are you checking on me? And if you're vulnerable, that's also okay. You give people permission to be, what they decide to be. And this is my choice, my decision. This is the new me that is emerging. If you're online, let me see. Thank you so much, Artie. Comment there. Wonderful. Kelvin Muchoki, good to see you, my brother. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me this broadcast. This is where we reclaim our destiny. I am committed to showing up on this show and really having this conversation of opening up to new possibilities, to becoming new people. And so let me just summarize for those who've just joined us the 4 points. Number one, we are talking about the story of the phoenix rising from the ashes. And one of the lessons that we learn from that story is you can allow whatever needs to die to die. Whatever needs to go, let it go. And then give permission to the new you to be born, the new you in your career, in your relationships, in your finances, in the way you relate to money. And then number three, stay true to each moment of change. Whatever needs to change, stay true to that moment. And then lastly, be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to stand in that vulnerability. When you deal with vulnerability, you deal with issues like fear. You see, the world wasn't vulnerable. That's why so many organizations have lied to us about COVID. It's because we are afraid of being vulnerable. Just saying, this is what we are going through. This is a challenge. We don't know. We don't know this thing. And that's why everyone is afraid. We don't know. The reason we are afraid is we don't know. And so the world elevated COVID even beyond what it is. And some of the results really we've seen that they are results of exaggerated results of fear. And so when you're not vulnerable and you're not willing to accept the truth and really stand in that and know that all is well, as long as God is on the throne, all is well. No matter where we find ourselves, all is well. All is well. Tell yourself that story. Another thing that lack of vulnerability, brings is shame, scarcity, mentality, uncertainty, anxiety. But when you step in vulnerability and just say, wow, this is where I am right now. This is where I am right now. This is my new career. This is what I'm doing. I used to do this, now this is what I'm doing. Can you give me a call? This is what I'm doing. I just want to earn some 200 shillings, from somebody, and that person may as well be you. When you're vulnerable, you're fearless. When you're vulnerable, you're powerful because there's nothing to fear. Don't let the world push you to vulnerability. Just step into it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Lucy Wanjiku, my coach, thank you so much for being here. This is an international speaker. This one is an international speaker, coach Lucy Wanjiku Jenga. Thank you so much for joining me. We will be here again tomorrow. Share this with your friends. Let them know they can get an idea or two that can quicken the power within them, that can inspire them to their greatness. Thank you and God bless you. Stay strong.